tech issues, as is very common with virtual celebrations, please enter those into the event chat box, and Hope staff is ready to answer those questions. We're very grateful to all of the speakers and the panelists who have joined us today, and we want to raise awareness about all of the amazing things that they are doing. And that means sharing your photos, your videos. Usually we're taking selfies with each other. Sitting at a table together this year, of course, is different, but we still want to see how you're celebrating with us. And you can share those using the hashtags Resilience of Hope and Latina History Day, and make sure to tag at Hope Latina. So whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, we want to see your pictures. We'll be sharing them as well. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on our first special guest of the day, the chair of this year's Latina History Day, and that is Laura Arciniega. Laura is a principal at the Raven Group, a national public policy and strategic communications firm, and she is a proud Hope Leadership Institute alumna and Hope board member. So thank you so much for joining us. Good morning, Laura. Thank you for being with us. Welcome.
Good morning, Annabelle. Thank you so much for the introduction. It's wonderful to see you and everyone out there. We're thrilled to have you join us, Annabelle, as our Mistress of Ceremonies. So would appreciate if everyone could show Annabelle our appreciation in the chat box, because we are so thrilled that she's here with us today. So it is my genuine pleasure and honor to serve on Hope's board of directors. And it has been a labor of love to step into this role of conference chair and to help bring this amazing event to life alongside the incredible Hope team, led by the wonderful Helen Torres, who we all love and appreciate, and our wonderful conference planning committee members, Maribeth Anagüey, Elizabeth Beltran, Wendy Estrada, Jessica Meyer, Ana Jovel Melendez, Adriana Mendoza, Sonia Navarro, Liliana Perez, and Glenda Silva. I'm so very grateful to each of you for sharing your time and talent, and for all that you have done to make this event possible. We hope that this year's theme, the resilience of hope, resonates with each of you. Looking back to this time last year, we were gearing up for the census and the presidential election, and we're focused on organizing and uplifting our voices to advocate for the needs of our community. As it turned out, we faced even greater challenges, individually, as a community, and globally, than we could ever have imagined. And all of our voices are needed now more than ever. Tomorrow will mark the 1-year anniversary of the World Health Organization declaring COVID-19 a global pandemic. And as we know all too well, the pandemic has severely exacerbated health and economic disparities among communities of color and devastated Latino workers and families across the country. According to the CDC, Latinos are 3.2 times more likely to be hospitalized and 2.3 times more likely to die from COVID-19 than our non-Hispanic white counterparts. At the same time, the COVID-19 pandemic and resulting recession have revealed deep-seated structural inequalities in the economy, and Latinos are suffering significant economic impacts. Latinos have faced large losses in employment, and Latina women in particular have experienced a steeper decline in employment during this economic downturn than any other demographic group, largely due to our overrepresentation in the hard-hit service industries. Meanwhile, Latino children are enduring educational disparities, and the digital divide is leading to learning loss and threatening further economic stratification. And yet, despite these substantial obstacles, our communities have remained resilient. Indeed, we have shown that we are and always have been essential. As frontline workers, Latinas have continued to show up as the backbone of so many essential industries. At the ballot box, Latinos turned out in historic numbers, declaring with our vote the pride we take in participating in our democracy. We also experienced history being made with Kamala Harris becoming the first female vice president and woman of color in the White House. And guess what? Latinas ran for office and won in record numbers, with more Latinas serving in Congress than ever before, and a groundbreaking number of women serving as state legislators in 2021. Just within the HOPE network, 21 of HOPE's leadership program alumni ran for office in 2020, and 18 of them won their elections. Latinas have historically been community leaders and change makers, and as one of the fastest growing demographics in the country, we are the future of the United States. As we double down on being resolved and resilient in our work to build a brighter future and to call on our leaders to ensure Latinos, people of color, and women are at the center of health, education, and economic recovery efforts, let's also remember to take time to recharge so we can bring our best selves to the very important work ahead. Our hope is that this conference serves as that recharge moment as we come together to reflect and gain inspiration from each other and our incredible lineup of speakers. Thank you again for joining us. I congratulate all of you for taking this time for yourselves, for investing in your resilience, and for reinvigorating your strong sense of hope that is so vital to the work we do in advancing our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Amen to that, investing in your resilience. And I am seeing a lot of you are logged on watching the Facebook live stream. So thank you for sending those messages, for tuning in. Shout out to everyone who is joining us this morning on Facebook. Thank you for spending it with us. And thank you, Laura, for acknowledging just the impact this pandemic has had disproportionately on our Latino community. I also want to now introduce Marilu Galvez. She is an Emmy Award-winning journalist and the Vice President of Community Engagement and Development for ABC-owned television station WABC, which is our sister station at KABC, the nation's #1 local news station. Although I think we can have some friendly debate about that, but you know what? That's all right. We're so happy to have you here and to be part of the ABC family and the HOPE family. She's also the committee lead for diversity and inclusion initiatives at ABC-owned television group. In 2020, she was named one of the top 10 corporate Latina executives of the year by Latina Style. So congratulations for that. Her leadership through strategy and innovation has helped expand and elevate internal and external multicultural presence. So very wonderful to see you here, Marilu, and thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Annabelle, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you today virtually and to share part of my story. I'm first generation in this country, an only child, and the oldest cousin, which, as you all know, in the Latin culture, cousins are more like siblings. I didn't have it all that bad growing up. I was raised by very strong women, my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother. And abuela did love to discipline with those chancletas. I was a Cuban princess. I studied dance lessons in my aunt's studio, then classical ballet at the Joffrey Ballet School in the Juilliard. I played the piano and was invited to play at Carnegie Hall. I didn't see my mother much because she worked several jobs, but it didn't seem odd to me at the time. I worked too, even at a young age, although I didn't know I was actually working. You see, my mom and I used to attend birthday parties through a company called The Clown Factory. I used to dance ballet for the kids at the party. I was a princess and my mom was one of the clowns. I thought it was just us having fun, but now I know that it was part of making ends meet. This was the start of doing a job I loved that didn't feel like work. I had no idea I was poor, and I had no idea I wasn't white. You can imagine the shock when I landed my first job in the major network in New York City. This was in the mid-90s. I walked into this beautiful, massive newsroom full of energy and lights. I remember thinking everyone would be like me. I walked in feeling confident, like I owned the place. And I moved from network to network, and job functions changed. But something started to happen. Little by little, as time went by, that confidence and the enthusiastic light that I had inside me began to dim. I started feeling for the first time in my life what it felt like to be unwelcomed and ashamed. I was made to feel ashamed for growing up in an apartment that was shared by my entire family. Ashamed to wear my hair naturally curly like it is now, or even ashamed at comments made that Hispanics are just too loud. So I started adjusting my voice to speak lower. I hid my curves with long suit jackets, and I straightened my hair to blend in. All of these feelings didn't come from within me. They were instilled in me by uncultured people at different points in my life and in my career. And during those difficult times, I looked around not just for a Hispanic woman, but a woman in the industry who I could depend on for support. And at times, I found myself lost and not having anyone to guide me. I wanted to leave the business, but I kept going. And I realized that the only way I could feel more confident and move up in my career was to really believe in myself. I worked hard. I got that from my family and the discipline that the arts, ballet, and piano had given me growing up. I started having more and more opportunities that led to bigger roles. Through networking, I found incredible mentors, both men and women. And I am incredibly grateful for those mentors. But I've always said, oh, I was lucky to have had mentors that nudged me along the way and believed in me. But it wasn't luck. Our culture teaches us that we should be grateful for opportunities that come our way, which is why we don't fight for promotions or salary increases, and we don't turn down offers that we know aren't worth taking. But you know what? If we deserve to be where we are, we have to fight for it. I started to find my voice and be local and express my ideas. So when you have an idea and you choose not to speak up, that's just you shutting down your own voice. I promise you that when you start feeling confident and vocalize your thoughts, you won't be able to stop. That process, however, did not come easy or quickly for me. I took roles that scared me, like being the first Hispanic female to take on the managing editor role in the #1 station in the country. I didn't understand the importance it was then to break that barrier. And I struggled my first year. I pushed aside those negative thoughts that crept in from time to time, and I had to accept that learning was part of getting better. And I forced myself to not get defensive when people gave me constructive criticism. I listened to those I knew wanted me to succeed, because the truth is that there are people who don't want us to succeed. I found my strength and my seat at the table, and I kept that role for 4 years until I was promoted to vice president. Going for the VP of Community Engagement and Development for WABC was a huge step for me. It was really a leap of faith. I was leaving a newsroom setting, but I knew I could make my job my own by combining content and community engagement. And in addition, I was also asked to lead the diversity and inclusion efforts across our 8 stations under the Walt Disney Television Group. I think back now and I realize what was missing between then and now. Fear. The fear of failing or not belonging. I still make mistakes. We continue to learn and grow and evolve regardless of the title you hold. Many of us have come from broken homes and have at some point in our lives felt ashamed about our culture. Yeah, we're loud. And yes, some of our parents don't speak English. And yes, I've worked hard. You have worked hard. Our mistakes don't define us, and someone else and what they think of me or you don't define who we are. And what's really great is that there are more and more women in leadership roles, more and more Latinas in leadership roles. But as you continue to rise, I please ask all of you to take the time to help someone find their voice, whether it's through mentoring or becoming a friend, or just by sharing a personal story that makes someone know that they aren't alone. And as you reach your goals, please help someone else reach theirs. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilu. I wish that we were in the room that we usually are in so you could hear all of the clapping. I think all of us are saying yes, yes,
Thank
amen
you.
to so many of the things that you shared with us. You are beautiful inside and out. Your heart is beautiful and your commitment is beautiful. Thank you so much. And as a fellow Latina, as a fellow journalist, I can relate as someone who just started wearing the curly hair on air about a year ago. And I think that's true in so many different aspects and spheres, right? That's not just for people who are on camera or for people who are working in media, but we deal with that as Latinas, as women of color, as women, especially Black women in the workplace. So it is encouraging to hear your story. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
And I now want to welcome, thank you, our next speaker, another Latina change maker working hard to make sure, in this case, that Latinos are represented in positions of leadership. Natalie Reyes is the president and CEO of Latina Victory, a progressive organization working to grow Latino political power by increasing Latino representation at every level of government. Natalie is the chair of the Binational Advisory Group for the Hope Binational Fellowship and a Hope Leadership Institute alumna, like many of the speakers that you're hearing from today. So we appreciate the steadfast support of Hope from all of our speakers. She's a powerhouse leader. She's an influencer, a strategic thinker that has dedicated her career to empowering our communities to be represented, uplifting the leadership of Latinas. So welcome and join me in welcoming Natalie Reyes.
Thank you, Annabelle. What a generous introduction, and thank you for everything that you do on a daily basis. Buenos dias, good morning, good afternoon from sunny Boston. A special thank you to my dear friend, Helen Torres, the Hope staff, board of directors, and supporters for your incredible leadership. Round of applause for all of you. Generations of Latinas are thriving and uplifting others thanks to your work and dedication, myself included. Our history, our tradition, our language, our arts and literature, our individual life stories are invaluable assets as we strive to be seen, to be heard, to be represented. They summon las ganas, that familiar life force that we command when we doubt and fear hover their ugly shadows over our dreams and aspirations. I confronted my first fear at a young age, at a very young age, at 9. It was early on my professional journey that I learned to face it by embracing my identity, my Latinidad. I am Latina, I am Lebanese, and I'm a proud American. I was 9 when my family came to this country from Venezuela. I spoke no English and had no ability to communicate. As a child growing up in Santa Monica, before Los Angeles became the medley of diversities today, I was embarrassed about my lack of ability to speak English or fit in. I was ashamed of my diversity. I wanted to just blend in. It was only as an adult that I had an epiphany, an awakening. My Latinidad is my power. Yes, our Latinidad is our power. When I was 25, I participated in Hope's Leadership Institute. I speak to you today as a proud Hope alumni who learned invaluable lessons that I follow to this day. It was through Hope that I first connected with the idea that there was a network of women like me, that it might be something distinctive to be like me, that my unique perspectives and experiences might be an asset, not a disadvantage. Once I embraced my culture and took pride in my Latinidad, I was able to truly understand my journey, set clear visions for my career path, and inspire other Latinas to do the same. That is why I'm here today, to uplift the marvels we can do when we let our pride in our Latino culture guide our work for the betterment of ourselves and of our community, of course. At this moment in time, we must not only embrace our pride in our Latino culture, but we must strengthen it. We must fight to make our culture visible, make our voices heard. One foolproof way of achieving this is through representation. Our cultural, our political, our economic landscape must include diverse Latino voices now more than ever. We need Latinos from all racial backgrounds, gender identities, economic statuses, representing our community in all fields across the nation. At Latino Victory, we take pride in our culture and in the Latino identity, which is the powerful catalyst that drives us to fight for representation. Since its inception, Latina Victory has fought for equal representation at all levels of our government. We have shattered representation barriers by electing Latinas and Latinos who became the first to represent their seats. Judging by the record number of Latinas we endorse and by the upcoming Latinas we're about to endorse across our great country, I can tell you that Latinas are the present and the future of our political power. Latinas are also growing and energizing the base, which is superb. Voting bloc, Latinas are also growing and energizing voting bloc in the United States, and Latina elected officials across the country are quickly becoming agents of change in city councils, in county governments, school boards, and state houses across the country. Beyond government representation, it is important to see our Latino community present in all fields, including the economy, education, science and technology, sports, in C-suites and corporate boardrooms, and of course, the arts. As young Latinas charting your career path, you are not meant to blend in. You are meant to stand out. You are meant to have a voice and to be visible. I am inspired by my Latinidad, by the pride I have in my cultures, by Latinas who are my support system, and I urge you to do the same. Harness your pride in your Latinidad and own your life story so that you can move your career forward and give back to your community. Every day, I use my pride in my Latinidad as I work to equalize Latino representation in government. So I cannot leave here today with one key message for all of you. If you're thinking about running for office, becoming a voice of your community in your government, please do. We need to keep the leadership pipeline full of inspiring, powerful Latinas with those ganas. We need you. Your community needs you. Your country needs you. And know that you don't stand alone. We must all invest in each other's potential. Today, let's recommit to reaching out and pulling up the women and girls around us, because together, and only together, we will tear down walls, whether they're made of mortar or mindset. Pa'lante y con ganas siempre.
Amen. Con ganas, key word, a word that is sometimes hard to translate precisely or fully into English, right? It is putting your everything, your will, your heart into what you are doing. Thank you, Natalie, for that beautiful message.
Thank you, Annabelle.
Our keynote speaker, Denise Froman, is just about ready to join us for her performance, and it is exclusively available to attendees registered to hop in. So if you're watching on Facebook Live right now, be sure to sign up over on Hop In. There's a link that's been pinned. I see it on the Facebook page, so you can use that to continue joining us and make sure you don't miss out on this performance. But for now, we are going to say goodbye to our Facebook Live audience. I do want to give some shout outs because I see many of you engaging, showing love to our speakers. Mary Lino, Kimberly Richardson, Stella Belgardo Scranton. Thank you, Ana Figueroa. Thank you, and showing our speakers so much love. We'll say goodbye. Y hasta mañana on our Facebook Live audience for today. So be sure to join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and I will be right back. Now it is my honor to introduce Latina History Day keynote speaker, Denise Froman. Denise Froman is a poet, a performer, and an educator from New York City. A Canto Mundo Fellow, she's received residences and awards from the National Association of Latino Arts and Cultures, Leeway Foundation, Malay Colony, and Blue Mountain Center. Her work has appeared in the New York Times, the Breakbeat Poets, Latinx, Nepantla, an anthology of queer poets of color, ESPNW, and elsewhere. A former Women of the World Poetry Slam champion, she is featured on hundreds of stages from the White House to the Apollo and co-organized #Poets for Puerto Rico. She lives in Philadelphia. Bienvenida a Denise Froman.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Annabelle. Thank you so much to everyone at Hope, to my fellow Boricua, Helen, for having me be a part of this incredible day. It's truly an honor to join you all today. I want to start by invoking the words of a Latina who made me feel more possible. As we talk about the Latina leaders in our community who have embodied the notion of resiliency, who have charted a new path forward, I want to invoke the words of a Latina who has meant a whole lot to me, Gloria Anzaldúa. Gloria Anzaldúa was a Chicana feminist, scholar, poet, lesbian, who I discovered at a really young age. As a young writer, I didn't know that there were other Latinas who spoke about their identities in such a powerful way. And it's important to share that I grew up not knowing any poets, not knowing any writers. I didn't know that that was a career path that I could also take. I graduated from public school in New York City with a dangerous misconception that Latinas didn't write poetry. And it wasn't until, in part, when I discovered Anzaldúa's work and the work of many other women of color that I felt more possible. Because poetry was really about falling in love with the power of your voice. And it was the poetry and the words of Anzaldúa that said writing, in a way, was about rejecting any notion that your voice didn't matter, right? This was a poetry that said you don't have to be legible to be discoverable. You don't have to make sense to make meaning. And so I want to invoke of Anzaldúa in 1981, who co-edited an anthology of writing from feminist women of color called This Bridge Called, I'm sure many of you have heard of. And in this anthology, Anzaldúa wrote an essay called Speaking in Tongues, a letter to third world women writer. And this letter is really a way to speak to other women of color who are having trouble in a largely white, male-dominated literary industry. And she asks a question, almost a rhetorical question that I'd like to share with all of you. And in this anthology, she asks, who gave us permission to perform the act of writing? I've returned to this question differently each time. I rest on that word permission, as if Anzaldúa is saying, how dare we speak, right? How dare we think we have something worth saying? And it's a radical question for those of us who have been marginalized, who have been convinced to be smaller versions of ourselves, to not take up so much space. And so I would like to invite everyone watching, tuning in, to call into the room in your own quiet mind and heart, a woman, a Latina, who made you feel more possible. This poem is dedicated to them, and this poem is dedicated to you. A woman's place. I heard a woman becomes herself the first time she speaks without permission. Then every word out her mouth a riot. Say beautiful and point to the map of your body. Say brave and wear your skin like a gown or a suit. Say hero and cast yourself in the lead role. When a girl pronounces her own name, there is glory. When a woman tells her own story, she lives forever. All the women I know are perennials, marigolds, daffodils, soft things that refuse to die. I don't come from anything tamed or willing. I come from soil flossed with barbed wire, meaning abuela will cuss you out with the same breath she kissed you with. Her blood, a wild river. My mother doesn't rely on instruction manuals or men, nor does she equate the two. Can fix anything if you get out of her way, says the best technology, her own 2 hands. But once I dreamed I had no teeth, just a mouth to hold other people's things. If this poem is the only thing that survives me, tell them I grew a new tongue. Tell them I built me a throne. Tell them when we discovered life on another planet, it was a woman. And she built a bridge, not a border, got God, and named gravity after herself. Another incredible mujer who I look up to and who inspires me a lot is a visual artist, organizer, activist based in Oakland named Fabiana Rodriguez. My good friend Fabiana often talks about the importance of art in social change, right? Poetry, art being the soundtrack to our movements, our political movements, our social movements. And what Fabiana says is that typically institutions and policies and laws are the last thing, they are the slowest things to change. But what the people have control over, the culture, right? Storytelling, the attitudes and beliefs that we hold, those are typically the first things that we can change. And so that is how I see my work as a language worker, as a memory worker in the reclamation of language. So this poem is thinking about the role of art in social change and in our political movements. I wrote it after the summer that we had of many, many protests standing up for Black lives, also standing up for women's rights, for LGBTQ rights, for our undocumented communities. And I wrote it shortly before our most recent election. Poetry is about an act of care because it is an act of recognition. It is about how we see each other. And I can't think of any moment in my lifetime where how we see each other matters more. This poem is called Petition. Petition. To pledge allegiance to the DJ's brushstroke, the jazz singer's sacred scat, the conguero's poetry. Petition to honor the holy of a two-step when the day feels like a procession of sorrow. Petition to replace this administration of awful with trombones and xylophone, with pleneros and pop locks, with dreams projected on rooftops from 52nd to 5th and Lehigh. Petition to rename all our streets with the faces of our beloved bards. Hello, Sonia Sanchez Way. Hello, Gloria Anzaldúa Avenue. May we stand at the intersection of love and rage singing something big is coming. And while we're here, petition for drumming to be an Olympic sport, for salsa to be an official language, for the national anthem to be rewritten by young people chanting El Pueblo Unido down Market Street. Petition to swoon over the canopy of sunflowers on Osage, their bulbed skins protruding like speakers. Or just a block away, a blues of lamb's ear grows its velvety skin so soft. When they say there's no beauty here, whisper, here is my flag. Petition to be remade and unmade in the making. The way a monarch butterfly slithers from its wetsuit just before diving headfirst into the world. Petition because the time is now to grow new limbs, to say what needs to be said, do what needs to be done. Petition to replace canisters of smoke with the smoke lyricists leave in their trails, with the singing of we the people, if and only if we means smoke signal. A billowing cloud of hands that says your liberation is my liberation and my liberation is your liberation. So petition to pick up the brooms, the bass, petition to heed the call of this day, to hum that tune as we use our tools, as we dance, as we paint, as we sing, as we do language, as we reimagine, we reckon, as we rewire, we remember, as we join the booming orchestra of movement singing, something big is coming. Something big is already here. This is going to be my last poem. I wrote it thinking about my mom, thinking about my mom who grew up in a small barrio, a small campo in Puerto Rico. My whole life, she was made to feel like a smaller version of herself because of her accent. I'm the youngest of 3 kids. And so oftentimes, whether we were waiting to renew our Medicaid or trying to pay a bill, there were people in formal positions of power who talked down to my mother because of her accent. And so this poem is about subverting the hierarchies of language that puts English at the top and every other language like Spanglish at the bottom. This is about reclaiming the power of our languages, of our multitudes, of Spanglish as a legitimate way of communicating, as a creative way of communicating. It's really about stepping into our identity and not watering any part of ourselves. My mom is a proud, strong Puerto Rican woman, but this poem is not about giving her agency. This poem is about recognizing the agency and the power she already possesses. This poem is called Accents and is dedicated to anybody whose first language is not English, and this is dedicated to my mom. My mom holds her accent like a shotgun with 2 good hands. Her tongue, all brass knuckles slipping in between her lips, her hips, all laughter and wind clap. She speaks a sancocho of Spanish and English pushing up and against one another in rapid fire. Mira, there is no telling my mama to be quiet. My mama don't know quiet. Her voice, one size better fit all. And you best not tell her to hush. She waited too many years for her voice to arrive, to be told it needed housekeeping. See, English sits in her mouth remixed, so strawberry becomes a strawberry, and cookie becomes a cookie, and kitchen, keychain, and chicken all sound the same. My mama doesn't say yes. She says, aha, and suddenly the sky in her mouth becomes a Hector Lavoe song. Her tongue can't lay itself down flat enough for the English language. It got too much hip, too much bone, too much conga, too much cuatro to 2-step. Had too many piano keys in between her teeth, too much clave, too much clap, got too much salsa to sit still. It is child wanting to make Play-Doh at a concrete. English be too neat for her kind of wonderful. Her words spill in conversation between women whose hands are all we got. Sometimes our hands are all we got. And accents that remind us that we are still bomba, still plena. You say huepa, becomes your hermano. You say ale, and it becomes a family. From her mother, the coquis of El Campo. So even when her lips can bear English, her accent is a stubborn compass, always pointing her towards home. Thank you so much to everyone at Hope. I'm so grateful and honored with you.
Denise, you are incredible. I'm literally in tears. I'm reading the comments. I just want to applaud you. They are saying pure magic. And that is just an expression of my heart as well. A lot of people are just standing up and applauding in their homes during this time of a pandemic. I wish we could just be all in an embrace, but I feel like we're in an embrace of your words.
Thank you
words
so much,
reflect us in our community. So thank you. I can't express how happy I am. We were supposed to have you last year. You came and said, Helen, we're going to be here this year. I'm going to be here this year. It means so much to us as a community of Latinas that group together constantly to be of support to each other. And I loved one of the things that you said, about creating salsa as an Olympic sport, and the idea also of how we connect with our language and acknowledging our mothers and the beautiful accents that so many of us possess. So I can go on forever, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of our heart here at Hope as a Latina community. Thank you for representing us and for your words.
Thank you, Helen. Palante.
Adelante. Hello again, everyone. If you're just tuning in, let me reintroduce myself. I'm Helen Torres, CEO of Hope, a proud Puerto Rican, proud CEO of a great organization that represents the Latina voice across this nation. Thank you to all our speakers today. You heard from some of the most amazing women, from our conference chair, Laura Asienega, from our great friend in New York, from ABC7, Marilu Galvez, my dear friend, a Hope Leadership alum, a woman that is just a trailblazer and representing so many Latinas to ensure that they have a national voice, Natalie Reyes. And thank you just to Annabelle Munoz for your constant support and always being here. We're so proud of our partnership with ABC7, and we're so proud of you in representing us in the airways. Before we break into our workshops and to continue this conference for today, remember it's a 4-day conference, so we have a few more days ahead of us of great inspiration. I'd like to take a moment to thank our committed partners who share their time and financial support to ensure that Hope is consistently delivering our mission to empower Latinas, to ensure political and economic parity for Latinas. A big thank you to our platinum sponsors. Let's thank our co-title sponsors, Coca-Cola and Estee Lauder companies. Thank you to our platinum sponsors, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Walt Disney Company, the Wells Fargo Bank. Gracias to our premier sponsors who support Hope year round. Sorry about that. Chevron, Comcast, NBC, Universal, Telemundo, and Southwest Airlines. And of course, our big thank you to our patron sponsor, AT&T. Many thanks to our year-round sponsors, Charter Communications, Spectrum, Facebook, and Union Bank, and to AARP and BGRA Ellis. Thank you all very much. That's Brown, George, Ross, O'Brien, Anali, and Ellis. I know I'm butchering your name, Muddy Beth, and I'm sorry for that. Thank you all. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break to transition to our breakout sessions. I'm sorry, I am just still very moved by all that Denise had to say. So let me be present for all of you. Before we go on our 5-minute break, I just want to ensure that you know that you're on Hopin and that you can pick your sessions. There are 2 workshops that you can pick from and go back and forth as you learn from our great panelists. Career Resilience, Latinas Creative Level Up, presented by the Walt Disney Company, and A Culture of Care, Building Caregiver Resilience, presented by AARP. Those are the 2 offerings this afternoon. And please remember to come back tomorrow as well. After the 1-hour breakout session, be sure to stick around for the Comadre Network Expose. You will be able to click on banners and really support local Latina-owned brands and access exclusive offers from our sponsors and our partners. You can access the Comadre Network by clicking on Expo in your Hopin tabs. You will also be able to network during that time. So get to meet each other. We're live across the nation, so you'll meet other great Latinas not only here in California, but in New York, in Boston, Florida, throughout the nation. And you can access the Comadre Network by clicking on the Expo tab. Finally, we would love to get your feedback and your experience from the workshops and listening to our hour-long program this morning. We have a conference evaluation form you can find linked in the reception area. As we thank you for participating, guests who fill out the survey will be able to enter into a very special raffle in which we will have product from Estee Lauder valued at $300 and above. If you're attending the full conference, we ask that you complete the form and at the end of the participation of 3 days for a chance to win this special gift. I'll see you back tomorrow on day 2 of Latina History Days as we're taking over the week, and where we will focus on a conversation on building wealth. Yes, we're talking about money. It's important too. So as we build and think about building our wealth, it's also about building our communities through a lot of different strategies. So you don't want to miss out on Beatriz Acevedo, the founder and CEO of Sumo Wealth, for her special remarks, and the newly designated U.S. Senator, appointed U.S. Senator from California, our first Latino from California representing us in the U.S. Senate, our dear good friend, Alex Padilla. So you'll be hearing from Beatrice and Alex tomorrow. Really looking forward to that presentation. Should you have any issues on Hopin platform, please reach out to the event chat that you'll see. Hope staff is standing by to help you out as much as possible. And thank you so much for joining us virtually. During this pandemic, I wish there was a way that we can just all embrace each other and celebrate in each other's glory as we are resilient. And so I just hope that you all feel the collective hope hug and know that hopefully next year we'll be across bi-coastal with this conference live. Thank you so much and enjoy your sessions.